I call to order the special meeting of the Etna Township Board of Trustees here on Tuesday, April 3rd, 2024 at 6 p.m. This is a replacement for last night's regular meeting, which was canceled due to the impending weather. Roll call, please.
Mr. Burkholder?
Present.
Mr. Evans?
Here.
Ms. McKee? Here.
Letitia, would you please lead us with the invocation?
Dear God, we thank you for another wonderful day here in Etna Township. We thank you for everyone who is attending and that you have kept them safe so they could be here today. We also ask that you keep our military and anyone that has not been able to be here safe, and that you bring our military home safe and sound, and that we pray for peace all over the world with all the conflicts going on today. Thank you for letting us have this time here today to make decisions that will be better for our community, and let us do that in wisdom and with grace. And we thank you for blessing us again to be healthy and also to have peace in our country. Amen.
In
Jesus' name, amen.
Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Is there a motion to adopt the agenda?
So moved.
Is there a second? I'll second it. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Burkholder?
Yes.
Mr. Evans?
Yes.
Ms. McKee?
Yes.
Motion passes. Is there a motion to adopt or to approve the minutes of the trustee meetings February 5th, 2024, regular meeting, and March 19th, 2024, special meeting?
So moved.
Is there a second? I'll second that. Under discussion, Mr. Evans, do you have an update on the other minutes and where we stand as far as status?
Yeah, they're working on those, and as soon as they're done, for us to check for any revisions, I'll forward those to all the members. But they're working on those now.
Great, and we'll probably have this for the 16th.
Correct.
Great, very good, thank you. Any further discussion on the minutes? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Mr. Burkholder?
Yes.
Mr. Evans?
Yes.
Ms. McKee?
Yes.
Welcome, everyone. This is the time in our agenda that anyone that has any comments, public comments they'd like to make, you have 3 minutes. Feel free to come to the podium and state your name and address for the record. Is there anyone that would like to speak at this time? Yes, sir. Come on up.
Eric Rager, 10460 Loop Road. I came because we had an issue with the bus coming down the road and picking up the kids, and we came up with a temporary solution. I was just coming to let you know that today I got a phone call from the bus driver, and I mean, since the storm last night, it kind of washed the temporary solution out pretty bad, and she had bottomed out on the road. So I'm worried that they may not be sending the bus down anymore. I'm not sure. She didn't say that they were, but I was just kind of coming to let you guys know, and then asking where we might be with the actual permanent solution, and so that we can do away with the temporary solution, because it's just going to keep getting washed out until we get the permanent solution, fixed. So that's all I got.
Mr. Evans, you want to address this?
Do we want to wait till we've got that on the Loop Road
Yep.
D? We'll address it then.
Okay.
But thanks for coming and let us know
Yeah.
about the situation down there. Is there anyone else that would like to speak at this time?
Kennard, 10785 Palmer Road. On the old business agenda here, I have township gas and electric supplier change. I guess I'd like to ask Ms. McGee, wasn't it just last year that we extended, what was it, a 3-year agreement with the aggregate company about that?
Yeah, we used a different company.
That was a locked-in term, you
Yeah.
know, whatever. So I don't know what that discussion is gonna be. That, are they proposing on changing the supplier? I guess I have to ask Mr. Evans, since he's running the show, are you planning, I know you didn't like the other people, and you encouraged the township to not renew that contract. And now AEP has announced 2 rate increases this year, so if the people that didn't stay on that aggregate are gonna be having higher bills now, you know. So that's what any comment? Are we changing the company?
Well, I'll address that when we get to that point on the agenda.
Okay. And then there's another motion to make state budget application. What's that all about?
Yeah,
We gotta wait for that too?
Yeah, I'll address it then, but it has to do with a proposal that I put together to submit for the state capital budget.
It's money from the state that we can use for projects.
All right. And welcome the new finance lady.
Thank you.
April Fools didn't make it, so it's April 2nd. So we can't play a prank on you. But I would like to, you know, I've said this for all the residents, I'd like, at the financial report, we used to have what the beginning budget was, or what the beginning amount of the checking account, and what the end of the month the checking account is. Now all we hear when we get the physical report is pay the bills. We have no idea how much money, we have no idea how much money's in the checking account, how much we spent. Are we spending more than we got coming in? And if that's the case, that's what's caused disaster and not good business practice. So just, you know, it'd be nice for us to know, you know, what's coming in, what's going out, what's the beginning balance, what the end balance is. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else at this time would have any comments? Anyone? Thank you. We'll now go to reports. Under the road report, Mr. Evans, do you have any comments?
Yes, I've got a couple things on the roads. There were, talking with Mr. Copley, there was a need for tires, I think it was mentioned previously. There were 2 quotes provided, one for the F-150 and then the other for the 3500 and the 5500. And those are as presented. Mr. Copley indicated that these quotes were higher than they should be because they don't include the state pricing, so they would be below this price. And I want to see if it was the board's pleasure to approve these so we can get the tires replaced.
The chair will entertain a motion if you have what, not to exceed the quotes, because apparently they'll come in cheaper than that.
Correct. So I'll move to approve the 2 quotes. The one, Bob Summerall, for estimated total of $35,3766, and the other one for $1665.12.
I'll second.
Second by Ms. McKee. Is there any further discussion or questions? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Gary Burkholder,
Yes,
Mr. Evans,
Yes.
Ms. McKee.
Yes.
motion passes.
And then the other thing I had was last year, I think it was December 19th, the board passed a motion to allow the road crew to be reimbursed up to $250 per employee for boots. That's been an ongoing practice. However, there is some difficulty in the purchase of those in reimbursement. So I wanted to, I'll make a motion to change that motion to allow for the direct purchase of the boots through the road department supervisor, his account, for any employee that needs that method of boot purchase.
Is there a second to the motion?
So you're saying, well, I'll second it for a discussion.
Very good.
So you want to give the superintendent of the roads, which is Bubba, use his credit card to purchase the boots for the rest of the gentlemen?
Correct. If it's not working out, that they purchase and then get reimbursed. Same terms.
So he would purchase them and then we would just basically pay his credit card. Okay. And the limit would still be at $250, correct?
Correct.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Mr. Burkholder?
Yes,
Mr. Evans?
Yes.
Ms. McKee?
Yes.
motion passes. Anything else, Mr. Evans?
Roads, the only thing was the fire extinguishers, but is that state security
State-
definitely taken care of?
Yeah,
Okay.
State Security's taking that, and they were waiting on some of the orders to take care of over there at the garage, and I think some here as well, including some of the emergency lights. I talked to, Holly went and talked to Mr. Hoover yesterday, but I talked to him today, so I think we got that straightened out, and I'll be happy to report back to the board when those get installed.
Okay, just the sooner we can do it, because right now they're all collected in one area. They do have a few scattered
Right.
back in the trucks, but I just think for safety purposes, sooner they can get done, better.
And Mr. Evans, do you have anything can you give us an update on pavement management since you worked with them?
Yes,
Previously.
they went through and videoed and surveyed all the roads. They're going through that data right now with their algorithms and that, so they should be coming up with the road conditions shortly.
Very good, thank you. Zoning update here. Mr. Littell and I had the opportunity to meet with Liz Fields, who was with McBride Dale. This is the company that we've contracted with to review some of our development projects that are coming in relative to zoning, and then also to participate in the technical review committee reviews that they have at Licking County Planning. In addition to that, we provided her a copy of our zoning resolution and also a copy of our draft comprehensive land use plan. And I've requested that she prepare a quote and bring it back to the president, but then share it with the entire board for a total rewrite of our zoning code here in Etna Township. So it'll take her maybe 2 to 3 weeks to do that, to accomplish that task. This is something we talked about during the land use committee. It was recommended by our consultant that if you're going to update your land use plan, then you also need to go ahead and update your zoning code. So that'll be something that will be forthcoming to the board. In terms of stormwater, as I think everyone in this room knows, we have a lot of problems with stormwater throughout the township, and we're dealing with those, specifically Tollgate Road, the preserves at Half Farms off of Palmer Road. They've had problems with their retention ponds and also the swales, and we're following up with that, and we've been in communication with Licking County Soil and Water, and they have actually walked the property, and it's my understanding either last week or this week they were going to meet with the builder out in that development to see if they can come up with some resolution. The other problem that the township's been cooperating or trying to assist with, it's a private pond at Brandy Mill Estates, and that pond has a drainage problem where the drain pipe is clogged. It's causing it to fill up higher than it should, which is backing it up to where the source, where the inlet is, and that water is leaking down onto Astor Court into the backyards of those residents. So we've been trying to facilitate communication between the residents and also between the homeowners association president. They've had several contractors out there, and they're going to, the HOA president is going to contact Soil and Water to see what their options are regarding some type of a solution. It's probably not going to be an inexpensive one, and that's one of the reasons it's taken a little bit of time to try to come up with an economical solution. And that's all I have on storm and water.
Could we go back to zoning for a minute, Mr.
Sure.
On zoning, I wanted to talk a little bit about the property on Tollgate that's been of concern at the county and even locally. I've learned that at least we can't find any kind of letter regarding the zoning violations that are apparently that have occurred with us, and I want to see if it hasn't been turned over to McBride Daniel, that it does, because we should be addressing our issue with the zoning. Apparently there's a building there that wasn't zoned, and find out why isn't there it being enforced. Violations of that is $100 for an instant, and then each day. Apparently this has been going on for quite a while. So I'm concerned that we're not enforcing the zoning, especially when there's large impacts in the surrounding areas. So I would ask that, again, that list, including this one, be turned over to McBride Daniel, and they really do a deep dive forensic investigation as to what needs to be done to get everything current with that.
Do you have specific information there? Is Mr. Latello?
He could not. I asked him to try to find any violation letter. He could not find anything, although, like I said, our records, we don't have really working records. The iWorks wasn't being used the way it should be to be a storehouse of all the information. The past zoning inspector would typically not write letters, and I think that's where we have to get back to documenting these things just as the course of what should be done. But that's where I think McBride Dale could come in and address that, because we've got other things like the zoning that's posted on our website is not current. I know it hasn't been updated the last couple of times we've changed it. People are referring to that, and that's another thing I think they should take a look at, because we don't want to put information out there that people may rely on that's not up to date.
Is there a specific building that you felt was in violation?
I was told that there's a garage that was built that was not part of the original zoning.
And no permit, you mean, for the garage?
Correct.
Okay. And I'm glad you brought up about the zoning and the enforcement on that. So those are the kinds of corrections. I also wanted to report that we recently went through the resolutions of those rezonings, whether it be text or mapped, that have not been forwarded to Licking County Planning. They need to be forwarded to them. They then update their zoning map on that as well, and they also update the zoning text. And then that should also be put on the auditor's site. But then it needs to, as you said, Mr. Evans, we need to make certain that comes back to the township and it's correct on our website, because we have people looking at either the code or the map to make decisions whether they want to buy a property or what kind of use they can have there. So I appreciate you pointing out that deficiency, and that's something we need to be working on.
And then the only other thing on that is I was talking to Holly, our new secretary, and she has experience with the iWork system. I think we should utilize that experience to maybe start utilizing what we really need to do on there, because it'll track interaction between calls, complaints. It's really a place that should be storing all the information that we can go to and pull things up instead of having to kind of go through folders and that. So
I agree. It's a digital format, so we need to be taking full advantage of that. Thank you. Any other questions on zoning or stormwater? I'll give a quick update on the parks. We finally, I signed off on the deed so that the execution of the Lango Park property, which was approximately 19.4 acres, that transaction has been executed and the deed has been recorded. There will be part of the checks for tonight and part of the approval of payments, $444.95 that'll go to Title Connect, which was the realty company that was dealing with this. That additional charge was part of the fact that we didn't close previously, and I think it had to do with the proration of the property taxes, and so we will resolve that, and we now own that piece of property. And as you can see, the Drayton Hall project has already begun on that site with the silt fence that's being put up there.
I'd like to make some
Go ahead.
comments on the parks since
Sure.
we're there.
Please do.
I would like to make a motion for Mr. Burkholder to take over the park, since you mentioned what you just regarding to that parkland and also the High Point Park, that you're applying for a grant. So I think you should take on that lead of being over the parks. So if I can get a second on that, that would be great.
Is there a second? Is there a reason? Well, I'll second the
Well, I just said.
I'll second the motion, but is there a reason?
No, because, you're working with the park, you're planning for this grant, and I think you'll be a good person to take over the park.
Very good.
Yeah.
Any further discussion?
How big is the park, did you say acres?
Well, the park is larger than that, but the Lango property was 19.4 acres that transferred over, that the township purchased, and that money was in escrow. Yeah. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Burkholder?
Yes.
Mr. Evans?
Yes.
Ms. McKee?
Yes.
Motion passes. Thank you.
Perfect.
Old business, managed IT services update and motion to add committee members to township email 365 account. I'll also move. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Discussion.
Yes, for the emails, I've been talking with a member of the zoning commission, and I think one of the things we want to try to affect is easier sharing of information, single source location of those. So I asked them if they thought it would be beneficial to have the 365 for the SharePoint, for the email address. They're currently using Gmail, their own. I think it would be when members come on board, giving them an official township email, be easier for records requests. We've implemented the new e-discovery with the 365 package, so now we can actually go in and cultivate any responsive records from email, so I think that'll be beneficial there. So I would like to move to allow the purchase of a MS 365 account for any board member or appointee on the zoning commission and or BZA.
Is there a second? I'll second the motion. Discussion. Any discussion? Trustees? Roll call, please.
Mr. Burkholder?
Yes.
Mr. Evans?
Yes.
Ms. McKee?
Yes.
Motion passes.
And
Health
then-
insurance update?
Yes, we're, the only thing we're waiting for right now is Anthem apparently sent the renewal rates for the current policy on March 11th. That was never received apparently, so they're working to resend that. That was via regular mail. They're looking at sending it via email. The broker, I'll forward that to the broker. When we get that, we might have it now or tomorrow. And they've already collected the shopped around the policies and that, so they're preparing for a presentation of information as, like I said, as soon as they get this renewal rates for our current policy.
Very good. Thanks for that update. Item C, Township Gas and Electric Supplier Change.
Yes, this is not about the aggregation program for the entire township, but this is about our costs. These costs include our 2 buildings, but also for the electricity, numerous streetlight programs in various neighborhoods. One of the issues with the aggregate that was chosen was they were more expensive than many others that wanted to present in that. Current rates are much lower than the Aetna aggregation program. So we can go with, and I spoke with Aspen Energy, John Thiebert, who was one of those that wanted to present before. He's been a wealth of information on these aggregation programs and that, but just as any resident can do, we can choose our own supplier. And residents can go to the state site, Apples to Apples, for energy for the electric and gas, and see where things are. As one of the residents pointed out, the AEP rates right now are at about 11% or 11 cents kilowatt, and they're going to be going up. The current through treble for electricity is 6 cents, 6.99 cents. What we can get right now is 0.6001, which makes the treble 16% higher. With gas, Columbia Gas, the treble aggregation rate is 0.5990, almost 60 cents per 100 cubic foot of gas, and what's available right now is 0.499, which makes the treble rates 20% higher. So I presented to the board the possible savings over time, and one of the options was near $1,000. Another one, I think, for the gas was like $500. But I think especially that we have the street lights in here where we pay it, but then bill it back to the neighborhoods. It goes through the auditors onto the real estate taxes and divide it up. I think we've got a fiduciary duty to ensure we get the lowest price. So we can move towards these agreements. It's an 18-month agreement, which will keep it within the 2025 ending term. Same with the treble initial rate, initial aggregate program. And we can have some significant savings. So I wanted to see if it was a pleasure board to do this.
Is there a motion?
Yeah, I move to enter into the supply agreements for gas and electric with Dynenergy and Symmetry through Aspen Energy as presented for an 18-month term.
Is there a second? I'll second the motion. This would be strictly for the streetlight programs in the Aetna-owned facilities, is that correct?
Correct. The 2 buildings, the garage, the town hall for the gas and electric, and then the electric on the numerous streetlight programs that we have.
Any further discussion or questions from the board? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Mr. Burkholder?
Yes.
Mr. Evans?
Yes.
Ms. McKee?
Yes.
Motion passes. Item D, Loop Road turnaround update discussion. Mr. Evans?
Yes, I just wanted to bring the board's attention to, I request initially guidance from the, or not the auditor, the engineer, Jared Nur, and he came back with a cul-de-sac estimate, which was not what we were looking at. It was a couple $100,000. The right-of-way there is already made for a turnaround at the end, which basically uses the apron of the adjoining property. I had requested a cost estimate on that. I think the second week in March, and have not gotten a response. I don't really get responses from the engineer's office, so I wanted to see if maybe, Mr. President, you could reach out to him and kind of nudge him to respond, because I think that would alleviate all the concerns for the property owner and the school bus. And then I also spoke with Mr. Copley about that, the side of the road, building that up. He has ordered some number 2s, larger stone, to put in there. He didn't have enough now, so he will be out there and putting those in there, so that should help temporarily address that issue. But I think that we just really need to fix that end turnaround to make it a true turnaround.
Can you forward me your original inquiry so I can,
Sure.
I'll forward that to Mr. or County Engineer, Mr. Nur. I know they are extremely busy. That's
Right.
not to say that there shouldn't be a timely response, but I'd be more than happy to reach out to him. New business motion to make a state capital budget application. I have, I'll make a motion, and then we can have discussion to submit for a capital project with the state capital budget. The state capital budget is where the legislature goes ahead and assigns, you can make requests, local entities like Etna Township can make a request for certain types of projects in order to have those projects included in the state capital budget, which is a 2-year budget. I believe they're looking at the 25-26 biennium budget right now. This is an opportunity. I don't know if Etna Township has applied in the past. We unfortunately did not make the Ohio House deadline to make that application to our state representative, but we still have until April 8th, which is next week, to make an application to Senator Tim Schaefer, who is our state senator. Given the lack of time that we had to go maybe for a larger capital project, I was thinking about some of the things, some of the improvements that I think need to be made. And of course, this is subject to board approval here in our community. With the Pike Street project, the redoing of curb and gutter and sidewalk and a walking path here on Pike Street, which is about a $3 million project, I felt it was important to begin planning now on how High Point Park is going to tie into that improvement project. We found a nice little booklet, which I'd like to share some of that. We could possibly put that online. It's got quite a few pages, but I did not realize in doing the research that this was 1991, but this public square out here was established in 1833 when they did the original platting of the downtown area here. In 1991, Joe Schaff went ahead and made an application, and I didn't realize, but the park, which was nothing more than an open field, it was a $120,000 project 33 years ago to improve that park as you see it here today. $60,000 of that came from the township, and the other $60,000 came through a grant. So the park has a lot of history, but it is showing some wear and tear, and therefore I have a presentation, as you can see up there on the screen, of the various possible improvements. This is only a concept plan, but this plan, along with the estimated costs, will be submitted to Senator Schaefer's office, and he will take this up into the Capital Budget Committee and see if we can get some funding. This is a way for us to use our current resources we have and leverage them to get state capital money so that the entire cost of this project does not fall solely on the township. I made a motion. Is there a second? And then I'll add more to the...
Well, I'll have a second for
Second.
discussion.
Second. Ms. McKee, you have the floor.
Yeah, okay, I know your email mentioned trying to get some funds from the, what is it, NCA?
Correct.
Well, just to be clear, that's not a guarantee. The NCA money is set for the new park, and that's our focus, is to get the new park up and running. I understand you talked about Pike Street. Me and the administrator, along with the engineering firm and Bill Lozier, walked this Pike Street project, and it's already a part of the project as far as Pike Street. Now, into the park, no, we didn't get into the park side of it because that's not a part of the Pike Street project. So with that being said, I don't think we should be asking for money from the NCA to spend money on this park where we got almost 120 acres that we should be focusing on. And that money for the NCA is set up to go to that park. I understand you may have a couple votes over there on that NCA board, that may be so, but I don't know if they are willing to give us that money. So we have to be clear, make sure the residents know that it's not a guarantee that they're going to give us that money to go towards that park.
You are correct with that. We have not made a request. There is not, first of all, there hasn't been a meeting for months of the NCA,
Right, that's
but you are correct. We are subject to the NCA board as far as approving this, and that's why during this application, we would back this with general fund money. We could probably make reference to the new community authority, but by the same token, the new community authority money, it's my understanding, has not been voted on to be totally dedicated to the new park. I'm certainly supportive of the new park. My commentary is going to be, it's going to be many, many years to develop the new park. Because first of all, the road off of 310 is going to be over $400,000 to complete that road from where the developer stops it going into Drayton Hall. The rest of that section of the road, which will have to be built to have access to the road. So I'm fully supportive of the new park. There will be other funding cycles. I think we can come back, but I think that High Point Park, not only because of its historical significance, but also because this park is going to get a lot busier. When you look at the High Point development, which is over 600 living units plus commercial space south on 310 here behind the Speedway, and that project will also dump out here on Pike Street at the end, there will be a walking path that will connect High Point Park.
Right.
I know that you and Mr. Evans have talked about having more events out here. We've had a movie in the park. We've talked about food trucks. A lot of people are using this park to either picnic or walk their dogs or bring their children. So I think the time to invest in High Point Park and make it the focal point of the downtown, and part of Pike Street was sold to the Mid-Ohio Regional Planning Commission based on the fact that it was going to lead to further economic development here in the downtown, or in other words, revitalization. So let me just mention what the price is since we're under discussion. It's $436,300, and then there's a soft cost for engineering, design, and other possible expenses. And these are probable costs. These aren't exact costs. The total cost is $567,190. That was put together by MKSK. There are various phases. It would be a rehabilitation or replacement of the fence, but also redoing the walking path and trying to make it more handicap accessible, converting the lighting, painting the light post and converting those to LED, which would be more cost saving. Redoing the gazebo as far as painting, rehabbing, taking out some of the dead vegetation, redoing that, and then also taking out some of the concrete and other no longer viable structures. In addition to that, there would be more picnic equipment put out there as well, and then a rehabbing of the various monuments that we have out there. At first, I didn't think it would be that high, but when I go back 33 years and the original park cost $120,000, I realized that this would be a good investment, particularly if we can get half of this. That's the other aspect that Senator Schaefer told me, that the capital budget likes to see the local entity put in 50%. So no guarantee we'd get it, but we can't get it if we don't apply for it. One thing that I'd like to see the township be more aggressive, and that is going out to get grants on a lot of these capital improvements. But I do agree with Ms. McKee. We've not asked the NCA But this would be something I'd also would like the board to consider asking the NCA if we in fact get funded by the state capital.
Also, I want to mention to you that there is a grant that the Licking County Parks and Recs would allow us funds as well.
That's
I
correct.
spoke to, I believe his name is just Jason, or he's a director for the Licking County Parks, and I spoke to him about the gazebo. And there's certain funds that they can use for certain things in the park. One of the things that we can use that grant for is the gazebo. It's an existing structure.
Mhm.
So I talked to him about having a new roof put on it, maybe do the metal roof, and then also make sure it's red to represent the Etna Township. Those are our colors. And he said that is something that we can apply for, and it won't be a problem. So that's something that we may be able to save some money under the cleaning, repairing, updating, structure, and electrical. You have the gazebo listed under that for that $112,500.
Right.
So, okay, so that's all I have.
Just something briefly, and it is correct that the NCA, there has been no vote or anything to say, yes, they're using those funds to direct it toward the park. One of the things that I was concerned about, that we're directing that much money towards that organization, because they can use it for sewer lines, they can use it for anything. So I think it would be critical to talk to them, but for a possible 50% match with this, I don't think we should pass it up. And the one thing with grants and that is we got to apply for it. We've got to go for it. And I definitely think we should go for this. Regarding things like matching to our current colors, I think maybe we should look at possible redesign, refresh of that, because I think our logos and that are a little dated. So if we're revitalizing everything in that, especially talk about a new website, to consider that before we go matching things. But I'm definitely for this. We can use future capital budget requests for things like, enlarging the town hall, because we're limited on space here, and other items, but we should definitely be very aggressive in pursuing all grants.
Including grants that would be for the new park as well. And I know, I'm not exactly sure when our next meeting will be with the park committee. We did delay making any appointments or interviews last night since we canceled it. But those interviews and appointments will take place on April 16th, which will be our next meeting. But I do want to point out, I totally agree with Ms. McKee as far as making application to the Licking County Park District, because we can get up to $15,000 a year, and we can bank that money. We don't have to spend it in any given year. So I think finding multiple sources, and it's an exciting time, but I agree with both of my colleagues. There are very many moving parts here, and the board and staff are trying to pull those all together for the betterment. So
I do have some additional questions.
sure.
You mentioned the grant through the Senator Schaefer's office. What was that grant amount up to? What is the maximum that we can get?
That's a good question, and it varies. It just depends on the size of your project.
Yeah.
Some come in at 500, 600,000. They've had some that are smaller, maybe in the 75,000 mark or anything. I was thinking something smaller, but I'd rather ask for more, and if they pared it back, then we could go from there. This project could also take place in phases, which was recommended by the consultant, but we thought that let's put it in as what we thought would be a total rehab of the park, and then if it comes in less that we're awarded, if awarded, then we'll go ahead and do certain parts of the project ahead of time. Also included, on that gazebo, there's also things such as, that includes the light poles and the electrical. I want to upgrade the electrical out there. It's all kind of broken down, and when we have food trucks and other high-use electrical thing, it trips the breaker and stuff. So I'd like to see that this park be an active park that people use extensively. And I think, I'm pretty confident that once the 600 living units to the south go in, that you're going to have a lot of people that want that connectivity which is really part of the goal of Etna now, is to connect all of our communities, including the new park. So we'll be talking about those kind of walking paths as well.
And the fundings, just to be clear, according to your email, it's 50% between our budget, the Etna Township budget. We'll take 50% of that, and the other 50% will come out of the NCA, correct?
Well, I think I'll have to, since the NCA hasn't agreed upon that, I think what the application will have to say that it could be a combination of the general fund money we have, but I would like to see us go to the NCA since that's a separate board, and those monies are going into the NCA for the improvement of the community. And then I concur with Mr. Evans that rather than seeing those go into strictly water and sewer projects for the development, I'd like to see it being something that actually the community can use tangibly, such as the parks, either this one or the new park that we're going to have off at 310 and Smoke.
Yeah, and then you mentioned the engineering firm that did this project layout for you, this draft.
Right.
MKSK, we spent the money on that as well.
Yes, we did. We approved that at the previous meeting.
Yeah.
Correct. That is correct.
So.
And I've worked with, just so everyone knows, I've worked with MKSK, just to give you a little history. I've worked with them on major bridge projects with ODOT, coordinated with them there. Worked on them with a major $6 million firehouse project where we put a lot of aesthetics. Worked on major road projects where we put in LED lights. They're probably one of the premier firms here in Columbus, Ohio, but they're regional. They go to other states. They did the original 310 corridor study here in Etna Township. That document, we still have access to that. So they originally planned the 310 corridor, but then the new board decided to go with Licking County Planning Commission instead. So we do have the walking path coming from the south of the interstate coming up, but it currently isn't connecting to anything. So part of the Pike Street project will connect that walking path through some of the alleys over here onto Pike Street, and then we want to have connectivity to the park as well. So we're now building the infrastructure not only for vehicular transportation, but also for what they call active transportation planning, which means bike paths, walking paths for the community.
And just to put things in perspective a little bit and this is one thing I've been pushing for a long time. The total budget for this is $567,000. That's about 2/4 of trash payments that we've made. I think that the community would rather see things like this that improve the community quality of life in that instead of just a quarter of trash payments here or there. So I think if we are going to expend any funds, that they're going to be at a discounted rate if we get a match. This is the direction we should be going in.
I'll be working with, if this is approved, I'll be working with the MKSK. They're going to help us, assist us get the application filled out, and then we need to get it filed by the 8th. And then I'll report back to the board that it's filed. You'll receive copies, and then I'll also find out when these decisions are made and when that money would be available, which may not be until the 2025. So, any further discussion or questions?
No, sir.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Burkholder?
Yes.
Mr. Evans?
Yes.
Ms. McKee?
No.
Motion passes. Is there a motion to approve the diligent agreement, agenda, and board software?
I'll move to approve the diligent agreement for the agenda and board software as presented.
Is there a second? I'll second the motion. Discussion?
Yeah, I've done quite a bit of research, and I think, again, for the efficiency, I don't know if you want, I've got a short video that I've shared with the board, if the board president thinks that the public would benefit from seeing that, or...
I think they would, and given the fact we're being pretty efficient here tonight, if you want to quickly present that.
And before you do, I do have some discussion before you present it.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
So there's a
Discussion.
cost for this software. And this software, you can answer, this is a question at the same time and just
Right.
information too. The software that you're trying to pass here tonight or purchase would take the place of where Laura used to do our minutes and also do our packets, correct?
Well, it streamlines the process so that the agenda creation is much quicker, much more efficient. All the supporting documents are attached to it, so that the public it's published to the public and the board. Go through the meeting. As you're going through the meeting, you record the votes. It pretty much builds the minutes, and when you're done, the minutes are over. So it's a much more efficient process through that time. This product is $8,000 annually. That's without the video component, although we can use our own video and put it in there. I'm not suggesting that we move forward with the video component right now, because I think we should do this in steps, although eventually I think we should. But with the amount of catch-up work that we have to do, there's a lot on Holly's shoulders, and we're still trying to figure out procedures and passwords. We're still trying to deal with all the records in zoning, iWork. This would free up Holly to possibly assist with the iWorks, get that to where we're at. We're basically rebuilding because we don't have the proper systems in place, and we've just been cobbling along. And we're just too big, too busy for that. And I've reached out to several entities that have used this, including Loudonville here in Ohio, and Carbondale out in Colorado, and they just sang the praises of it, of how much more efficient it is, how much easier, even the creation of it. We don't have 20 emails going back and forth of here's this for the meeting, here's that for the meeting. The secretary, killing trees trying to get packets together, and when you need to make a change to a packet, it's instantaneous. So it's modernizing how we do it. It's much more efficient, and again, allows us to deal with the things that have been neglected for over a decade.
I'm not against it. I mean, it makes sense. I brought to the attention several years ago. I'm not against it, but I'm just want to be clear that we are letting the residents know the cost, okay? Because we're paying that $8,000 annually, and Laura was here, she was doing it. We were paying her $25 an hour, which took 19 years to get there, just to make that clear. So this will cut back on whomever we end up putting in that position. Or would they still have to mandate it sitting there checking those? They would still show up at the meetings?
Well, they will still be involved in the process, but it'll free up the time, because I'm not sure if you're aware of how long it takes to even transcribe minutes for a 3-hour meeting. And again, the former secretary did the minutes, but we have no working file system. Everything else was neglected. So the point is, we need to address those we don't have policies and procedures. We don't have anything documented, and we need to. Just dealing with things such as Love's called and wanted to know why their dog area was turned down. We can't tell them because we don't know where those records are, if there are records. So we've got a real issue of trying to rebuild the structure of this township, and I think we have a real opportunity with the new secretary. Though she's temp to hire, I think she's doing a great job, and can really help us with her past experience with iWorks, because again, it'll track all the contacts, all the communication, all the documents, all the plans, approval. This is basically the iWorks version for the agenda and minutes, and this also has the calendar, and it can integrate into any system. Violet Township uses it, the school districts use it. So there's a lot of I've talked to many other entities, but this one has the most intuitive, the most, I think, ease of use, that everybody will be comfortable with it, but it's also still robust to provide the services. And I think a lot of questions will be answered if we just watch this quick video.
Can we go to the video, but I'll allow the trustees to have comments afterwards as well.
Hopefully the sound's it.
Diligent Community helps you manage every aspect of the board agenda and meeting page agenda packets with all these perfectly colored tabs and finishing a day early. But then you receive an email notification and a missing file and a sticky note and 32 texts and the wrong document got uploaded and your apartment had just got hacked and now you need a signature from an executive who's on vacation. Needless to say, all of this is distracting you from what matters most, serving your community. There has to be a better way. Diligent Community is the next generation governance and civic engagement solution for public education. Right out of the box, you can effectively create and manage board meeting agendas, agenda item submissions, approval workflows, and other essential duties while staying compliant and accessible to your board members and the public. Let's be honest, you're responsible for a ton of things. Luckily, Community unifies all board responsibilities into one secure platform, so your data is protected, and public information can be easily published to the built-in Community site. And learning Community is as intuitive as sending an email. If you or your board members need help, you can count on a real person to answer the phone and assist you. Let's say you need to build an agenda packet for an upcoming school board meeting. With Community, agenda items can be sent for approval right in the platform. From there, you can throw your 217 pages and any other files into the platform, and in one click, create a beautifully organized agenda packet. What used to be a disparate system with many steps is now an efficient, streamlined process. Board members in the community can engage with meetings from any device, following along in real time with the most up-to-date materials. Board procedures that used to be a nightmare are now faster, easier, and more secure. So you can focus on what matters most, serving your community. Diligent Community, defining the modern community.
Thank you, Letitia.
Thank you. That was good and quick. Gave a nice overview. Any other comments from the trustees?
Well, I've seen it, I've seen it over at the school, so I'm familiar with it, and it's a good product, good software.
And just to mention, this is actually the newer platform. The school in Violet Township are on the older. This one's got a little bit different platform, but it's improved, and they're constantly working on the improvements, and they'll be rolling those out. So I think this is just the direction we should be in. Residents have asked about having the packet material. I've been trying to do that. Wasn't able to do it this time, of get it out personally, but I think this way everybody's aware of what is going to be spoken about, all the materials. It's transparent, and more so, I think it's efficient. And if we're going to be relearning processes, we might as well learn new good processes, not the old ones that we're just barely hanging on. So I think this is direction we need to go.
My closing comment is, first of all, I want to thank our existing staff, but also and employees, and our current employee at Laura's position. It's been a lot to go through this transition and to lose some of our employees that have been here for a long time. But I really appreciate everyone pulling together, and Mr. Evans had the correct word. It's called modernization, and there's a great need. We are at the epicenter of development in Lincoln County, along with some of our other townships and cities. And we have to move at the speed of business, and we have to be responsive. And as we get new staff on here, communication is important. And if you have one source, one point where there's access for the public to get that information on the website. I know we're not there yet. We haven't been able to put the whole packets together and get those published, simply because of the transition, but also the lack of technology to do that efficiently. I've worked and this is not uncommon for communities not to modernize. I've worked in a city of 25,000 people, and we were still hand delivering packets to the council members. And we're ahead of that here in Etna Township, but this is the next step forward. And it frees up time to do even more important things. So we got a lot of things on the streaming. We're doing some new improvements on there, but this will be helpful, and hopefully, I know the county commissioners, rather than have a lot of documents, they have laptops right at their desks at the county level, and they can view all the documents there. So I appreciate comments from both of my colleagues, and I'm going to support this. It's a step in the right direction, and it'll take us some time to get trained and to learn the system, but I think it's definitely a very positive step in the right direction.
The only thing I'd say is, I don't know if we want to amend the motion or do another one, that I've done a lot of due diligence in this, and I wouldn't mind spearheading, just coordinating the training and, from signing the contract to the training and implementation, if the board so pleases. So I don't know.
Well, let's pass the first one, and then I'll entertain a motion for your second, just to keep it cleaner. So if there's no further discussion, roll call, please.
Mr. Burkholder?
Yes.
Mr. Evans?
Yes.
Ms. McKee?
Yes.
And I'll make the motion for trustee Evans to coordinate the training and be able to sign the contract for this package. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Ms. McKee. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Burkholder?
Yes.
Mr. Evans?
Yes.
Ms. McKee?
Yes.
Motion passes. Thank you. Item C, UAN, which stands for the Uniform Accounting Network, which is our accounting system that the state provides for various entities, but a lot of townships use this thing. And so is there a motion to provide read-only access to the board and staff?
So moved.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Ms. McKee. Discussion?
Yes, Ms. Varian, former fiscal officer, brought this up, I think a year or two ago. It will require, I believe the UAN said, a possible server here, because it's got to run off a central location. If it's just on a laptop or a tower, it won't be. But this will allow any board member, if they have a question about, a PO or that, to look at it directly. And I think it'll help during the budgeting times to be able to do that. So we might need fund approval for server, but I could talk to our IT department and kind of get some costs and bring it back. But I think this would be the first step.
Other comments?
I just think we could talk to, what is it, state security? I know they do a lot of, or are you going to go with the other company? What company are you talking? Are you going to get
As far
three
as the server.
estimates as far as the server?
Well, we've got a managed services provider now, and they should deal with everything
Right,
IT
I
and
agree.
that. So
I agree. That's why I wanted to make sure.
Very good.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
This
Yes, you
involves
may.
me?
Yes.
Of course. Okay, so if you're putting this on a server, I can't take my laptop with my UAN and go elsewhere to work.
you can, because it'll access the server just like anybody else. So instead of going on your hard drive, which it'll be easier to back up the server, and instead of that laptop, because I'm guessing right now there's no backups, or there were no backups going on in the township.
There are backups of the UAN.
There are? Okay. But like I said, going to this, and this was just based on Ms. Varian speaking with UAN, that's the way it would have to be. We'll have to verify, but
I'll call UAN next week and see what they say for the next meeting, if that's okay.
Yeah, sure. This will be a first step to see.
If we can even do it.
Well, I guess I'm told we can.
we can do it.
We can do it, it's just how do we execute on it? What is the technology we have to do? Very good. Roll call, please.
Mr. Burkholder?
Yes.
Mr. Evans?
Yes.
Ms. McKee?
Yes.
Motion passes. Is there a motion for Resolution 2024-020, disposal of the inventory and office chair?
Yeah, I'll move to approve resolution 2024-02 for the disposal of the damaged.
Is there a
inventory.
second?
I'll second.
Discussion? If you would explain.
Yes, this is, we had to recently replace the chair for the zoning, assistant zoning officer. It was damaged. The rear of the chair was popping out. Because we're a township, we can't just throw things out. We have to either sell them, dispose of them properly. I don't want the chair sitting over at the garage hall and somebody just happen to sit on it and get injured. So we've got other things we need to deal with, but I wanted to quickly just deal with this one.
Yeah, I'm supportive, and one of our activities will be to look at our inventory of either damaged or disposable equipment. We have a variety of laptops around here. Some of that, if it has value, then it could be advertised on, well, I'm trying to think of that. There's a website that you can advertise government property on, and people can bid on it. That's something another one of our projects is trying to find all this disposable.
You got something to say?
GovDeals.com.
GovDeals, that's it. Thank you. Anything else on this?
No, who seconded that?
GovDeals?
No, who seconded that?
Ross.
Ross did. Roll call, please.
Mr. Burkholder?
Yes.
Mr. Evans?
Yes.
Ms. McKee?
Yes.
Mr. Evans, I believe you asked for the office supply account, item E.
Yes, I moved to allow the creation of an office supply charge account for invoice or charge with Staples and Office Depot / Office Max.
Second. I'll make a second. I'll second the motion.
Okay.
Discussion.
This is just to allow for easier ordering of routine supplies, correct? Right now, the secretary needs to pick out the supplies, get a trustee, Mr. Burkholder, to provide a credit card. I think we need to line it up with Uline and other things where if supplies are needed and with authority, it's just, easier to order basic supplies.
Any further discussion?
The only thing is the fiscal officer would just have to set these up.
Very good. Any questions? Discussion?
Nope.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Burkholder?
Yes.
Mr. Evans?
Yes.
Ms. McKee?
Yes.
Motion passes. Updates on the comprehensive land use plan. I have been in contact with Mr. Linner. They are working on the changes. Some of the changes they're updating. They've also been in contact. Mr. Linner's, our consultant's also been in contact with Dave Olson from the Planning Commission, and there's some minor changes. One of the things that Mr. Linner was waiting on were the text amendments from the township as well as the map amendments, which have not been updated for some time. So I don't know if there were 6 or 7 of them. So Ms. Brown, before she left, went ahead and got those updated and got those submitted to Mr. Linner. So we're hoping that by the end of this week or early next week, we get those changes incorporated, and then that final draft will be forwarded to the township board to make a decision on that. So I wanted to give the update on that. And are there any questions?
No.
Item G is the Morpsey intern, and I'll make a motion to authorize the president of the Etna Township Board of Trustees to interview a Morpsey intern that is getting a degree from Ohio State University in urban planning, lives in Pickerington. I've provided the resumes to my colleagues, so I'll make a motion to authorize the president to interview that intern, and in turn then bring the intern in for the prospective intern into the next board meeting for interviewing by all 3 trustees and possible hiring as an intern for the summer of 2024. Is there a second?
I'll second for discussion.
Second by Ms. McKee. You have the
I think it's a
floor.
great idea. We did this last year before last, and thinking about myself being a college intern, how much experience that I received and how, it really helped me to move forward in my career. So I think it's a wonderful investment for the township, and especially the fact that they are studying that area of expertise. So that's perfect, especially in Lincoln County. So yeah, I think it's a great idea.
Well, I appreciate that, and actually, we had thought about this earlier, but it was actually Morpsey reached out to us, and this is an honors student that has a lot of experience, and I appreciate your experience, Ms. McKee, on how it worked out here for the township, and we certainly have plenty of work, both in the zoning, plus they can take a look at our land use plan as well. It'll be right up their alley. The cost is about $16 per hour. It's my understanding, if I recall, it doesn't have to be full-time, but we would at least, I would think, have them at least here 4 days a week. at the minimum. Mr. Evans, do you have any questions or comments?
What's the time period for this month? Not
well,
month to month,
no.
but when's it start? When's
I
it
think
end?
I have to, the reason I want to interview her quickly so she doesn't take another position, but I believe it starts in May and goes through August.
Okay. My only concern is, I mean, I was an intern at an accounting firm, and we get the benefit of it, but also they get the benefit of seeing how things work, and that I'm a little concerned that we don't have a zoning department right now. We've got an assistant zoning inspector, but really nothing functioning, no records, proper record systems and that. So she's coming in, and as long as she knows what she's coming into, because I don't think it's fair that that she needs to make a decision with her eyes wide open of what she's coming in. She does have a lot of opportunities if she wants to dig in and help us get to where we need. And I think possibly with her prior experience, definitely turn her loose on the comprehensive plan.
Yes.
See what her thoughts are. And so I think that would be kind of a beneficial area. But as far as other stuff, and that's why I forwarded the board those ideas about the redesign of the desk in the office to accommodate more people. And that, so if we're going to do it, I think we should definitely look at that and try to get as much in place before she comes, or allow her to address some of the issues with some kind of purpose.
Yeah.
Because right now I think we're kind of.
Well, I agree completely, and I think that'll be incumbent on us to give her some direction and give her the types of opportunities that benefit both of us. For example, I'll ask her in the interview, is she familiar with iWorks? But looking at her resume, she's got GIS experience, something that we need to be plugging into more here. So I think we'll give her, some tough assignments to the extent of her ability, and make sure that it could be a very good growing experience for us about what do you do when you graduate and you come into a community like Etna, that you have so much going on and so many changes and upgrades that you want to make. So she might have some ideas on how we can do that. But just having that extra set of eyes and hands, I think, is going to be very beneficial for what I would consider very reasonable costs.
Oh, yeah, and I think based on her resume, that she's a very capable woman, and I think we would benefit quite a bit. I just want to make sure she will too.
I appreciate that. Roll call, please.
Mr. Burkholder?
Yes.
Mr. Evans?
Yes.
Ms. McKee?
Yes.
We now have the fiscal officer's report, resolution 2024-021 to approve purchase orders. Is there a motion to do so?
So moved.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Ms. McKee. Any discussion, questions, comments?
The only thing I'll say is, and I'm not sure if Ms. Catuno is aware of this, the diligent, the 14,000 that was including the video, we're not using that video, so, but a PO, we don't have to use that full amount, so the only amount is the 8,000 on it.
Okay.
So we could leave it as is and we just don't use it.
And I've already talked to the fiscal officer about the additional $444.95 that we need for the closing of the Langle property. And Ms. McKee, do you have any questions or comments?
Does that have to be added to this?
No, I think it's
Okay, so I
It's
know, okay, on the Dawson, the 137813, that's for a total of 10,300. Am I correct on that? Or we're just paying them, what, monthly?
We're talking about purchase orders, not the
Yeah.
payments.
Well, it's still a part of that, so I'm
No,
sorry.
it's
Approve
separate.
purchase orders. So we can wait till we get there then.
No, go ahead. I mean, if you got a question.
Yeah.
But the,
Because that was on the 444.95, the Title Connect, you talked about that, you talked about the actual other 14,000. So,
Right.
yeah, oh, that's right.
Yeah, we pay
You
Dawson.
gave additional copy. I
We
see.
pay Dawson, and then Dawson pays
Yeah, okay, thank you.
the secretary, correct?
Okay. Just want to make sure.
No, that's fine.
Okay.
I want to make sure we're all
All right. we're good
square.
there. Yep, she gave me another copy, so that's what threw me off.
Okay, no, that's good.
Thank you.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Burkholder?
Yes.
Mr. Evans?
yes.
Ms. McKee?
Yes.
Motion passes. Item B, motion to ratify the payment of the bills as shown on the payment listing. Also move, is there a second?
I'll second, and that's where I had the question.
Second by Ms. McKee. Any further comments or
Yes, I do.
discussions? Go
Mr.
ahead.
Evans had a check in there for $163.48
Mileage,
mileage. Okay, did you provide that to us where you went on the mileage to and
that was
from?
provided to the fiscal
Oh,
officer, as
okay.
it always
Can I see
is.
that, please?
Any other questions, comments? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Well, wait a minute.
Oh,
Yeah.
so go ahead, I'll back it up.
We didn't look at this stuff before we approved it. I try to do that.
No, that's fine, take your time. We're on schedule.
Are you saying we can add more stuff?
I am not saying
That's
that.
not exactly at all what he said.
Well, we do have the public comments, the post-public.
Oh, that's
comments
right,
that
we have
don't
public
know.
comments, so we're not done yet.
We got 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. About a half hour out there possible.
No.
Thank you. Okay, that's it for me. You should be back. Roll
Oh,
call?
very good. Roll call, please.
Mr. Burkholder?
Yes.
Mr. Evans?
Yes.
Ms. McKee?
Yes.
Motion passes. Item D,
There are none.
our new fiscal officer. I want to welcome you and look forward to working with you. I know it's a lot to take on, but I think you got off,
This is it.
I know, you got off to a good start, so. Did you have anything, Mr. Evans or Ms. McKee?
Are we over to the trustee comments now?
Not yet.
No, not yet.
We're getting there.
No, as far as the IT individual was here earlier and worked with everybody and Jackie, so I just want to remind Jackie, if you don't have his contact information,
I took his.
you got it? Okay. Just reach out to him, because I did have some issues with the internet too, and I'm gonna have him come back out, but feel free, because anything with that package, anything under 5 hours of like project time is included in our services.
Very good. Post-public comments, limit of 2 minutes per person. It should be something that, since this is a special meeting, that was on the agenda, but please state your name and address, and of course, we had all those reports, so that's a pretty broad category, so go ahead.
Yeah, Rachel Zelazny, 10141 Tollgate Road, Southwest. I guess my questions are on the zoning and enforcement. Obviously, we have the assistant zoning. Are we getting a new zoning inspector, or are we using the firm? And who's enforcing the zoning that we currently have?
That's a great question. We are going to be using the firm on some of this, as Mr. Evans said earlier in the meeting. On some of these items, we have some questions if there are outstanding violations, and not just the example, but some of the other examples that we have that take a little more in-depth analysis. We'll be using the firm.
And when does that change hands? Because my question is that last week, maybe, I don't know, it all runs together now, that we have a concrete company that was denied use to have a concrete company, and then now they're telling our zoning department that they're manufacturing blocks, which you would also need a conditional use, which is going right into the waterway, which floods in front of my house, and now that's affecting my well water, which is the whole point of the BZA to begin with. So who's enforcing this? Because I can be like, hey, this is happening because 15 people are taking video while they pass our house because I have 3 children and I'm busy. I'm not sitting there babysitting my neighbor. I'm really not. But I get notified and I'm like, well, shit, that's my water, because it is. And no one does anything. So
Well-
where's the enforcement on that, other than like, well, they told me they were making bricks, or they're making the cement blocks. That states in our zoning that you need a conditional use. That's, even if they had it, they don't have that permit. So I don't understand, like, where's the enforcement for that? Because I just want my water to be clean that I'm getting.
Your point is well taken, and you have been very helpful in forwarding that information to us, which has been forwarded to our zoning department. On some of those, though, that's a little more complicated type of violation, and so we're looking into that right now. I realize on enforcement issues, and this case has been going on quite a while now, but it takes a lot of research to make sure we're on the right side of that violation. And so that's something that, there's a lot of violations out here that the township needs to follow up on, and I think we're committed to that, but we've got to get the staffing. That's not an excuse.
No, I'm just.
But I appreciate
It's a
you bringing
lot.
the point up, because it's a valid point. And
Because
it's-
every year, it keeps getting worse. Where beforehand, we had a puddle, and then last year, we lost our driveways. And then now there's another building that's not supposed to be up on top of their detention pond, and it keeps coming, and now there's nowhere for my water to flow, where we had to go out last night and put extra pipes onto our sub pump because our floors were just, drains were coming up. We had 2 inches of water in our basement, which has never happened. So I've been coming to these meetings for 2 years now, since they took out 5 wetlands, and my yard started disappearing. And then now it's in my house. Like, I'm still getting out the mold smell. I'm still back. I have to go home and finish shampooing again.
I think the most important advice I can give to anyone on any kind of a violation or complaint or stormwater is, and you've done an exceptional job, is to continue to document it and forward that information to the township. Your particular situation obviously is with legal as well, but then there's also the zoning component. And it's going to take some time to sort everything out. And I think Mr. Evans said it well, is we're still trying to go back and find records where they are, where are the violations, and this isn't the only one, because I've done research on the Skinnell project as well, as far as those
I'm
violations.
sure. It's all over Licking. I can't have a repeat all spring of last night.
And I would just encourage the board, and Mr. Burkholder, you're in charge of the firm and that, but to really get them engaged with this and do a forensic review. Our assistant zoning inspector can try to dig up information, but if there's violations, issue official violations.
Like, I'm not saying it's all my neighbor, and I'm not. They know as well.
If
It's
you
not.
looked at
Well, no.
everybody.
Ms. Katuna, please. But I think we need to start working on the official path here and engage the firm and let them they're the experts. And again, when I was concerned when they were manufacturing the concrete washouts, well, that is a use code and a conditional use code, so are they in violation there? Maybe. And if they are, there should be a violation issued. Because there seems to be an ongoing disregard to stop work orders and stuff like that.
Right, but
So
I
we
don't-
need to do whatever we can do.
We will, but this is contingent on there's only so many hours a day and having the proper staff. So I don't want to get too far into a specific
Right.
pending case at this time.
Well, and then also, just the other one is where I've had multiple people come out to the drain, your guys' drains on the easement. There's, 3 of them on my property? And then the middle one that's backing up is the one that goes under Tollgate Road. So
Yes.
like, you guys are.
And I have talked, let me respond to that. I have talked to Mr. Copley with the road department. Part of the challenge there is the fact that it's backing up because according to his analysis, and I haven't talked to Soil and Water, but there's not enough, the integrity of the tile and the size of the tile going into that field is not large enough to handle those large events. And so that water is backing up onto your side. Now, that's the preliminary analysis.
Sure.
But that's on private property, so that's another issue is, we can operate on stormwater within the right-of-way, but when it comes to, that will be basically a longer-term solution. And I think my recommendation, based on my experience, because we had a similar one in Jordan Manor, is that we need to get with Soil and Water. Because there can be grants and where you get a majority of the property owners to file a petition to go ahead and try to get some, but it takes funding. And the township did that many years ago in Jardin Manor when they had a failure of the stormwater system. But when it's on private property, trustees cannot go on private property, or they can be held liable for expended township funds on private property when it comes to drainage. That's why we had to do what's called a ditch petition. But that's what I've found out so far regarding why that's backing up. Because apparently the pipe is open. Now, you may have some other evidence to the contrary.
Are we sure it's open? Because Tyler Dye indicated something about a crushed culvert pipe, and there's none visible. I don't know if
I don't know if
we
that
should.
was in the right of way for the driveways or not.
There's nothing. Bubba has not seen any. I don't know if he's speculating under the road. I would almost say that we should probably ensure, since this is an ongoing issue, scope our portion. If it's good, we're out.
First of all, we need to get the report from Soil and Water before we start and find out what they found out. That's the 2 minutes, though. I want to be fair to anyone else.
That's
So
fine.
very good.
I'm getting screwed from both sides.
And next, please. And we'll give you a little extra time since we.
Thank you. Shelley Marie Epoch, 114 Royalty Drive. I'm excited to see we're getting some zoning help, and that'll be great. And of course, I'm interested in that. As far as the intern goes, I know we want to be, like Mark mentioned, let them know, going in eyes wide open. We have processes that need cleaned up and put in place, this and that, and this and that. But I, based on my personal experience, don't rule out that letting the intern help a little bit in that area will also help her, them, to see the bigger picture of the function of zoning personnel within an office setting, within a township setting. I've learned, actually, the best way to learn anything about someplace new you're looking for is to get in there and work with their records, specifically the finances. That was my area. But just wanted to, go ahead and please consider letting her help out there a little bit too. It'll show, another win-win for everybody.
I really appreciate that comment. I think we can have her help out with some staff reports, processing zoning permits. One thing that you don't always, it's been my experience when you go through the university and get urban planning, you don't necessarily get a lot of zoning experience. And I've talked to some recent city managers that have the Masters in Public Administration and Urban Planning, but it was when they got either the internship or the capstone project, or when they got that first job, and then really had to have the practice of, in the planning, part of planning is the zoning and applying the zoning. So, and if we go ahead and move forward with this, we'll make certain that she comes to the zoning commission as well.
Great.
And maybe can assist with some of those things. She could dig into that. I think that'd be a good connection.
And we would love to learn from her too.
Yeah, great. So
Thank you.
we'll do that. Thank you. Anyone else? Yes, sir.
Steve Wood, 6968 Palmer Road. This is for you, Mr. Burkholder.
Yes.
The MKSK
Yes.
that you're trying to use,
Yes.
are they going to be the actual project manager for the new park and old park?
They would put together the detailed design, yes. They would be part of putting together this was just a concept plan in order to make the application deadline. But yes, they do urban planning such as Franklin Park Conservatory. That's kind of their specialty, yes.
Okay, the second question then would be, are you planning on using local businesses or local companies for a lot of that? One of the things you mentioned was LED lighting for out here.
Right, I think that's a best practice. I mean, on other projects I've worked, it's always been nice if, and I don't know what this bidding process would be, but if you give preference to local companies within your community. I know that's kind of, I think, been the practice in that, on other things.
Well, that still falls back to my project manager. Who is actually going to be managing this project in order to get these things taken care of? Or is it the trustees or
Well, that hasn't been decided yet. The project manager, and that'll depend on who the contractor is. So I think I've worked on these kinds of projects before. I think you'll have really a team where MKSK will be involved. You'll have a construction team, a foreman or a superintendent. There may be a trustee that is designated as well. Or if we have a township administrator, by that time the township administrator would be sitting in on those meetings. And typically you have a pre-construction meeting and then you have periodic meetings throughout the project to ensure that you're getting the quality product you want. So there might be one designee, it might be the probably township administrator, but those other parties would definitely be involved so that there's communication as to the progress of the project.
Okay. Just like you said, a township administrator would be that person, not the trustees.
Okay. Thanks.
Well, thank you for the question. We're not done yet. Next.
Mr. President, quickly, one thing, I would just ask the President to ask all members of the board and fiscal office not to shuffle through papers and that while the public are commenting and doing things like that, because it is very distracting.
Okay, that's fine. Let's move on. Sir, okay, you have the floor.
Chuck Bundy, 10254 Tollgate Road, Southwest. I appreciate the backlog of stuff you guys have, and I realize you're just trying to work through it one thing at a time, and I realize that it isn't going quickly enough for some people, but I appreciate what you're doing. I think tonight, when you passed the motion to approve the diligent agreement, I think that's one of the best things you've done, because you're going to streamline for everybody, including us. We'll be able to look on the internet and see what's going on. And in the past, we haven't been able to do that. So kudos to you guys. I think this board here is trying to get things done. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Come on up. Okay. Come on down.
Letitia McIntyre, 15 3rd Avenue Southwest. First of all, want to express our appreciation for letting us have the egg hunt in the park. It went very well. And I'm happy to hear about some possible improvements of High Point, because the electrical problem has been an issue for some of our events for many years, where there's one plug and that's it. So we've been limited on some of the things that we can actually do. So that, to me, hearing about the improvement on the park here is great. Also, I'm happy to hear about the, I guess, the update on technology for the township, because I know in my field work in the last 10 years, everything's digital now. There's hardly any paper. So that, to me, is a great thing that is being done too. And then I do have a question about the email for, because it does affect my board. Are all members going to be receiving that new email, or are we just moving forward with new members?
No, everybody on the board now, and you'll have the full suite of Microsoft products, the Word, the OneDrive, and most importantly, I think the SharePoint. So you can have one location that everybody can go to for the most up-to-date version, and our IT package includes training. So we can train people to use it. I spoke with Adam Kelly mostly. He said you were gone at the last meeting when they discussed it. But it's just something that I think that we ask you to do quite a bit. And so we should give you the tools to be able to do that more efficiently. And I think even the diligent thing for your board, creating the agendas with the secretary, and the minutes, and it'll really streamline that process. And even collaboration of, we need this on the agenda, we need that, your final approval. I think it'll allow everything in conjunction with the MS365 package to really bring it together, including support. I've been, a proponent of having that outside zoning firm, or even Berker and Eckler, they have training that will come in, because I think we need to do better of providing that training to new members and existing members. I think everybody can always learn. There's a lot of OTA events that we should encourage too. So
Yes, I encourage more training events for us. for all boards, because there are some things that have changed since I've been on the board.
Sure.
And I would like to know, what's going on out there. It's because, well, being that we are such a growing community, I'm sorry, I'm over my time. But we want to know what's going on so we are compliant, and then when we're making decisions and we're going through this, that book, the whole zoning resolutions and everything, we want to know we're doing the right thing. So I encourage any training that is available to us.
Well, and to provide the support, because you guys are going through use codes, and that top level descriptor doesn't really give justice of what is possible underneath it.
Right.
And I think having a professional firm to be able to say, oh, watch out for this, or this is in there, instead of you guys having to do your own due diligence. You should still do your due diligence, but have a little bit of help.
Yes. We also may lose a board member in a couple of years, so I'm kind of a little sad about that, but they've been on the board for many, many years. All right, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Anyone else? Yes, sir.
John Gennard, 10785 Palmer Road. I gotta apologize, my hearing aids don't play real good in rooms like this, but the 19.4 acres or something, that's this park out here?
No, that's the Smoke Road.
No,
That's the new park.
that's the new park, and that's the section that butts up to Drayton Hall and was owned by the Langles, and that money that the 2019 board had put into escrow to get that through the subdivision regulations and all the planning, that finally came to fruition, and so that's the 19.4. This is about 2.44. Yeah, this is 2. I mean, farming, so
Yeah,
that's no 19 acres.
So what was the 120 acres? Did I hear something?
That's the park.
Huh?
It's a total.
That's the total of all the parcels from 310 all the way over to Smoke, the Broyles
And that was
and
involved in the
JBW and the Langles. That's the combined total of ground.
This was just the small connector between the
Right.
two. If we didn't get this completed, we'd have two different smaller
parcels.
parks. Now it allows a connection.
What was the total purchase on all that?
The total purchase was just a little over, it was $340,200 and some dollars are the final numbers on that 19.44 acres.
Okay.
And that was the original cost was like $338,000. Then there were some fees and everything that, according to the purchase agreement, added to that. And then there was a credit. There was a credit in there. I'm not sure what it was for, of a couple $100. So the $444.95 goes to Title Connect, which was the company that dealt with the title and the transaction. And then Mr. Hayes represented the Langles, Scott Hayes, and so we had conversations with him, and he facilitated us getting the right amount. And so we wanted to get that check issued tonight, but the deed has already been recorded, so we now own that property.
And did I hear in one of the meetings this property is considered wetlands?
There are wetlands on the total acreage, and that hasn't been totally identified. I mean, we know where they are, but it hasn't been surveyed yet, and that'll probably be another step in the development of the park, is identifying these wetlands, because there are restrictions, and we've had a lot of discussion about destroying wetlands, and so, and good discussion. But yeah, there are a lot of different processes. We've got this $50,000 study with EMH&T that the park committee has met several times, and we'll get some more updates on that, but that's kind of the initial thing to identify some things. They did a survey with the community, could weigh in on that. They have some results, and I think they want to come in and present to the park committee as a whole on some of and have a discussion, and that'll be an open advertised meeting that the public can attend as well.
All right, thank you, appreciate it.
Well, thanks for the questions. Yes, sir.
John Hanson, Ridgewood Drive. On the internet service here, I think they've been working on that since October. And right now, as I understand it, you can't hardly stream a video. The people last week were having trouble hooking up to the internet. If you put in your own server, don't you need like a T1 line or something strong coming in? Secondly, you need to keep it secure.
Yep.
There needs to be special electric and suppression for it, and heating and cooling. So it's more than $100 or $200 a month to rent the server or buy one for $2,000. But, you know, having your own server, you know, brings on a lot more liability. And you're still going to have your backups off premise. So this needs to be dependable here.
That's right.
So you might want to rethink, you know, rushing into having your own server. I mean, it worked out okay for Hillary Clinton, but.
Sir, I'd be happy, more than happy. I think you got some good questions there, and I've dealt with some server rooms, so, and I don't know if there's a web version where you can get into UAN versus the web. I do want to comment on your first question, though, which is correct, and I've already looked into that. We do not have good bandwidth here, and
Right.
you are correct, and because I've already had a consultant that I've been talking to and putting together a proposal that because of our lack of bandwidth, that has affected both the audio and the visual. And that is, I think the whole board is committed to improving that. It's one thing to talk about transparency, but if you can't hear and the video's not good or it gets choppy.
Right.
So I haven't had a chance to follow up with a vendor about getting a higher speed
I think it's
internet.
infrastructure, not vendors, because, you know, when the DSL came out, having good DSL was always a function of how close you were to the
Right.
switching station.
Yes.
So it was over on Palmer Road somewhere, so
Yep.
it's probably good at Evan's house and probably not good here. So it just depends on where you're at on that kind of service.
Right.
I don't know how cable's affected it, and I know there's a lot of fiber optic running up and down Main Street, so maybe there's some other options now.
Well, that's one of the questions, and I don't know. In fact, we've had some preliminary questions. Where's the fiber, and can we get fiber into here? But I don't know yet, but you're on.
It's on Main.
Yeah, you are correct.
Well, that's one of the things I'd like to say with all the businesses coming in, Amazon, that they've got high bandwidth, that
Right.
we should be able to piggyback on that to try to get it for the community. We should be actively pursuing that. But as far as the server goes, server is just a single rack. This could act as a server. The IT, we actually have a qualified IT company now. The prior company was doing nothing except collecting our MS-35 payments. There was no security, there was nothing. So this company is doing the proper thing. It'll be protected, but prior discussions with UAN, it's just having a server, and servers are very common. You don't need special cooling for one rack. I mean, it's just like having the DVR and NVR back there for the security thing.
Back to the comments my colleagues have made though regarding, and everyone, regarding security, the hardware, the software, yes, all of that is a top priority for the township. It'll make it a monumental difference. I think everyone knows that, but I will say I think the entire board is committed to doing it the right way. And, you know, don't be penny wise and pound foolish. If we're going to do this, do it right the first time and not try to do it on a nickel or a dime. And
It's like the difference between voltage and amp. You need a lot of amp to drive that service, so, you know, right now the hookup is weak.
And one thing with the Diligent, with the streaming, we're saying buffering and that one of the options is using the Boxcast encoder, which has built-in delay that they can decrease or eliminate any of that kind of buffering if you have a temporary issue with your stream. So those are the things that with thorough due diligence that we're going to address properly.
We'll go to trustee, oh, is there anyone? Yes, go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
Phyllis Bundy, 10254 Tollgate Road. I just want to say that I really am glad that you're going to address the High Point Park. We were around when Joe and Jenny Schaff were trying to get that going, and before it was just a vacant lot, nothing in there. Nobody did anything. But right now, I think it really does need to be upgraded. You know, Ms. McGee, she's wanting to update the gazebo. I think that's a great idea.
Mhm.
And before you, just my opinion, before you go to another park, I think this one should be restored, just out of respect for the actual little part of Etna. I mean, this really makes Etna.
Yeah.
You know,
yeah.
it makes it a nice little
Yeah.
community.
Mhm.
That's just my
Yeah,
comment.
that's
Well, I appreciate that a lot, and I think everyone knows, but in case you don't, this is the highest point between the city of Columbus and Jacksontown, and that's how it got the name High Point. And I had the pleasure of serving with Joe's son, Mark Schaff, who was a big advocate of the park and served on some of our committees here at the township. Ms. McKee, do you have trustee comments?
No,
Anything?
I'm good on that.
Mr. Evans?
Yeah, a couple things. We're talking about internet and website and all that. I spoke with Doug Rogers, who deals with our website. He indicated that there's been problems with iPage, who hosts our website.
Right.
They are not updating their PHP, which is the protocol, and basically said tough luck. He recommends shifting that to another provider, A2, that he uses. It just hosts it. And we can also shift our domain. There's a little bit left on the current one-year term, but I think if we shift the website, we should, the hosting, we should shift the website too. It's minimal cost. I think with his discount, it's like $11.99 a month for the hosting, which is typically around what I pay for my business hosting. So it's reasonable, and there would just be the domain registration. So if it's appropriate, I'd like to move to authorize the transfer of the website and domain name from iPage to A2 with Doug Rogers' company. And I can facilitate that with Mr. Rogers.
Is there a second? I'll second it. I know that when I was working with Laura Brown on the transition, that we did have problems, and they were identified as far as the domain and everything, so I'm supportive. Is there any further comment or questions? Roll call, please.
Mr. Burkholder?
Yes.
Mr. Evans?
Yes.
Ms. McKee?
Yes.
Motion passes. I want to thank everyone for coming this evening. Yes, one more thing?
Yeah, well, two things. Ms. Catuno's cell phone.
Yes.
I believe, I was trying to research the motion that was made before. Maybe correct me if I'm wrong. Did we approve all officers and fiscal officer to have a cell phone, so we don't need any further approval, or do we need to make the approval for her to
No, I think
get a cell phone?
No, we did not do it for everybody. We just.
everybody, right?
Well, the first time we didn't, but then we came back around.
Yeah, that
When you
was-
started, we
right.
said we would just let everybody.
So did you?
So we don't need.
No, we don't
She
need
could just,
approval.
okay, she can just get that.
We'll go ahead and get
And
that
then
set up.
the other thing is the AHS, the 6.9 grant.
Yes.
The prosecutor refused to deal with that because it was taken to special counsel by the prior board. We're not engaged with that special counsel anymore, but the prosecutor still will not engage. After the prior special counsel gave their opinion, the developer submitted an additional request. I believe that if it hasn't been done already, that Bricker and Graydon should review that and officially.
It's already been done.
As,
We don't have the review yet, but when I received that second request, I forwarded it to them since
Okay.
they're our legal counsel. But thank you for
so it'll be coming to
reminding
the
me.
next meeting or soon?
Yes, I think that should be on the agenda so we can get some closure on that.
Right, because that'll be a third time that we spend money on this.
I know.
And the thing about this, we have to realize, it's $100,000 that they're trying to give. We are not legally obligated to give the money to them. Now, if we give it to them, now we're putting ourselves at risk to be audited. And this is, so we have to be careful. And then we're spending money on legal fees this will be the third time.
Well,
So we have to move forward and just, bury it and let's keep going.
Well, I would just like to point out that ODOT the individual there says that they should be provided these funds, and they're the granting agency, so I'd be concerned that we're gonna violate that and possibly risk future grants. So I just wanna make sure we do this properly, but we're kinda in this spot because we didn't have an agreement as we did other ones.
Well,
So we're gonna have to do that.
Let me just say, it's my impression, we're all on the same side. I do appreciate your comments very much, Ms. McKee. Nobody likes having to spend money 2 or 3 times to get the definitive answer, but.
That you
but
want, and it's just.
I have the same concerns. If they're not entitled to it, then it needs to be
Right,
ours.
right.
But yeah, we've got other
We
parties
need
saying.
that money.
Well, yes, so
Parks, roads,
I'm glad you made
infrastructure.
that, I'm glad you made that point. Is there a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Burkholder?
Yes.
Mr. Evans?
Yes.
Ms. McKee?
Yes, thank you.
Yes. We stand adjourned. Thank you. And thanks for all the comments. We had another